goes the flag, and the 1984 James Hardy 1000 is underway, and it is George Fury.
Onto the top of the mountain, hear the crowd roar. Oh, quick across the top is George Fury.
And he is flying in the turbocharged Bluebird.
The guy had the ability to come from dirt to bitumen.
He obviously came with a huge amount of car control.
Turbo really screaming.
Go, 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 says George Fury, down to the bottom of Conrod Straight.
Oh, no, George, hang on to it. Well, I think they've turned the wick up and paid the penalty.
But it was a lot of hard work and a very expensive car.
This would be a lonely time for Freddie Gibson.
Small, but fierce, this car.
Well, he had great car skill. Driving's driving, and he's tough to beat.
The checkered flag goes out for George Fury in the Nissan Bluebird.
The whole exercise has been worthwhile for Fred Gibson Motorsport. Jubilant scenes.
Welcome to another Shannon's Legends of Motorsport. Now, focus today is one of Australia's most versatile drivers. He started fairly late in his career compared to most, but he reached the highest levels in both rally and on the circuit. George Fury. Once again, Mark Osen will have a Shannon's Classic car, and Aaron Noonan will be with me here with special comments and some very insightful questions. But let's meet our special guest today, twice Australian rally champion, Bathurst pole sitter and Nissan star of the 80s, George Fury, ladies and gentlemen.
And he brought the hat as well. How good's that?
Have a seat, mate.
I was expecting Terry Toweling, George, with the Akubra car.
No, I started off with the Terry Toweling.
And then you stepped it up.
When I circuit raced, I went to proper hats.
And a beautiful thing it is too, just for the occasion. How does a young Hungarian immigrant with no real knowledge or background in motorsport become one of the greats?
I don't know. Well, I arrived here when I was 14, I guess, in Australia, and then a family lived in Melbourne, and after a couple of years in Melbourne, we shifted to this shop, and we lived above it. My father started a business, and there was a newsagent next door, right next door. That's where I learnt about motor racing, and I wanted to go motor racing from then on. But of course, it takes a bit of money and...
easier said than done.
Easier said than done. So,
why was it, George, though, that rallying, was it because it was easier to get into that circuit racing? Why did you end up on the dirt?
On retrospect, I probably should have started circuit racing, but at the time I believed that rallying was going to give me the most bang for the buck, because I was in a little business converting cars just before I started motorsport, and I got out of that business expressly to go. That was my chance, my last chance. I was 28 or 29. My last chance to go racing, or rallying as it was. And I came out with that little business with $25,000, which these days is pittance. But I bought a $500 car that I converted into a rally car, and that was my personal transport as well. And that's how I started, Mark 1 Cortina.
I can't imagine Mum and Dad could have been too thrilled about this concept of... No, not too many parents are thrilled with the idea of occupation of motorsport, racer, professionals.
You're right there, particularly my dad. We came out to Australia for a new life and to give his son and daughter a good start, you know, and here I went and spending money on what Dad didn't really want me to spend the money on, and really there was a little bit of you know, unhappiness between us for quite a time, until I started to become a little bit successful, and then Dad softened and came along with it.
You're really successful, two-time Australian rally champion, as Billy mentioned. You won a pile of ARC rounds and a lot of the major stuff with the Datsun team, but then it changed because they went circuit racing, so you went circuit racing. Tell us about that first time you went. They took a converted stanza and put you in a sports sedan race. Were they crazy?
That was Howard Marsden's dream. He was the team manager in the last half of my rallying career. And rallying sort of lost a bit of edge. But for me, like, I was nearly 40 years old at that stage, and and I hadn't driven on slicks. We kind of believed that I could do it, Howard and I, you know, and that's why I got asked to do it, which was fantastic for me.
History would show Billy that he did okay. He kind of got it in the end, didn't he? Luckily, though, on circuits, Billy, no trees. Much safer. Well, there's a few trees around Bathurst, of course, depending on how well you drive. This George on debut at Bathurst in 1981. George Fury is our guest on Shannon's Legends of Motorsport.
It's a pretty quick car, potential, very powerful, very complex. Fuel injection, cross flow heads, twin ignition. Nissan has sold many tens of thousands of these around the world. These are the first two we've seen in Australia, and they're fairly highly developed racing versions of the Bluebird Turbo, but undoubtedly we're going to see many more turbocharged cars in action in the future.
R55, this is George Fury in the second of the Nissan Bluebirds.
A four-cylinder engine, turbocharged, could be the way of the future, developing around 300 horsepower. George, former Australian rally champion, turned to racing 18 months ago, has been one of the sensations here at Bathurst.
Plenty of talent, plenty of experience between himself and co-driver Fred Gibson. These cars really going tremendously. Turbo wound up, zipping down Conrod Straight. The time's going to be pretty good. They're going to go very close to best time at this point. Over the line, the checkered flag in 2:20.6.
Yes, 1982, Bathurst. George qualified 10th. This is Shannon's Legends of Motorsport. Fred Gibson was mentioned there. Fred and Christine will be joining us very soon. But tell us about your early recollections of Bathurst, George.
Look, the biggest thing about going from rallying to racing, how much closer to the limit you are. Because in rallying, if you drove the rally car to those limits that you drive a race car, you'd be crashing all the time. So to me, that was the biggest difference.
What about, though, the guys of the era, the Brocks, the Johnsons, the Moffats? Did you feel accepted, or did you feel like this outsider coming in, he's the rally guy, he's not one of us?
Oh, not a problem, no.
Yeah.
But look, there is not that, you know, we were friends, but because you kind of fight on the track. It's never buddy-buddy sort of friendships, but no, they're all good and we got on fine.
What about the Bluebird to drive? Was it wild, or was it under control? Or compared to a rally car, was it under control?
Well, because it had this small turbo, it didn't have any lag, you know, and not in the rev range that you drove the car at. So it wasn't a problem, and by the end of the Bluebird's life, which was 84, was it? Something like that. It was really nice to drive, really nice to drive.
But you got in it again last year, some 30 years on. Had it changed at all, or was it as you remember?
No, it was exactly like that. No power steering. That was one of the biggest things about those Bathurst cars. You know, you had to drive those cars without power steering.
Well, when you work on the farm, though.
Yeah,
no problem.
But it still took some sweat out of it.
The Bluebird, surprisingly, not a car that I liked a lot back in the day. I thought the name was pretty off for a racing car, but it's got a cult following, a very popular car. Let's have a look at George in action. 1983, Bathurst, the shootout.
Small but fierce, this car. Lightweight in name only.
And the totally different sound of the turbo. The turbo, you can hear the tyres slipping across the ground more than the engine. Going in there very deep indeed. Here comes the turbo. Down through the mountain.
And quick at the top. Sensationally quick at the top of the mountain. How good will it be? We're about to find out as he takes the left-hander and the checkered flag goes out for George Fury in the Nissan Bluebird. 2:17.5 seconds.
Well, it was good enough for a front row start, and kitted up that car was very good indeed. But let's now introduce two people who've made a pretty good contribution to your career, George Fury. I'm talking about Fred and Christine Gibson. Welcome.
Again.
Billy, Freddie, good to see you, mate.
Same here. I sit next to the champion. Hey?
You can not only sit next to him, but you can tell us a few yarns.
Oh, no, we're here all night. Hey, mate.
How was it meeting George for the first time? How did it all come about?
I think Howard Marsden was the one that introduced the whole program, and he asked me to be involved in the Bluebird program. He was a motorsport boss, but also he was a product planning manager for Nissan back in those days. And he thought, as Nissan were going to start selling Bluebirds, we should have a motorsport program. And I think that's where it all started, George, isn't it, really? From the rally programs into the motorsport. So it was pretty exciting, yeah.
You became the driver coach, did you? Or did you have to beat some rally habits out of him that he just couldn't help but be the rally man on the tarmac?
I must say, George is probably one of the gamest drivers I've ever seen in that car, because it wasn't a nice car. It wasn't a nice car to drive. George thought it was good after what he come from. Didn't know any better. It was a difficult car, and but biggest problem I had with him at Oran Park, we used to go there with his Stanza, which they converted to a bitumen car. That sound right? Yep. Take the dirt tyres off or something. And George used to sort of like flick and catch it still. He used to turn the corner, he'd flick it in and oversteer, because that's the way he rally drove. So we had to get that education about using all the bitumen, and it was a good experience. I think we used to go up once a month or something and do those sort of things, yeah.
Christine, what were your first impressions of George?
Well, George and I always got on very well together when we first met, and I got on really well with May, his wife, because we had lots of interests. We used to sit and knit at Bathurst together and do our needlework, and the photographers used to love to have us photographed outside the pit area and in our race suits and things like that.
The team was like a family, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Even with the mechanics and everybody, you know, Fred did a great job.
I think that's, as we all know, I'm a team person, and if you're in a team, it's a team exercise. It's not just George the best, or I'm the best, or whoever's the best. It's we all work together. We all stay together. We all sort of work together, and we all get the job done.
I do recall somewhere in the files of Channel 7 and the race cams and the like, you carried race cam a bit over the course of your career. Did you not drop some bad words one day, George?
I did, apparently, but...
Apparently?
But, I know it's on film, but I was wired for sound, but I didn't hear Mike Raymond. And I just went on with my business as I was in my early days. I was a bit ranty and ravey about people getting in the way. And I just went on like that. I didn't know I was on air.
Well, you'll be pleased to see this, George, because we're going to the break with George on race cam, but no talking here, just passing.
Fury coming up. There you can see the difference between a fairly strong running Commodore V8, but Fury just pulls him in under the player bridge, points to him to move on the inside. Good thinking there on the part of Kia, and George acknowledges back with a wave. Not too much in it though, was it? They come along pit straight one more time.
Amazing that they've got time for the niceties out there.
Sizzling new show starts Wednesday, 7:30.
There's only one woman driving in this year's James Hardy 1000, and there's only one married couple. Well, naturally, there's a common link, and that's Christine Gibson, who, with her husband Fred, will be driving for the Nissan team, not in the same car, but in different cars. Christine, how does it feel to be a teammate yet a rival to your own husband?
That's the only reason I'm here, not the rivalry bit. I joined the team because Fred was involved, and because Howard is a very good friend of both of ours and asked me to. It's exciting. It's enjoyable because we do enjoy doing it together. We don't only talk about motor racing when we're at home, though.
That was your last outing 2 years ago when you and Bob Morris were involved in that coming together that stopped the race. How do you feel about that in retrospect, and what do you recall of that incident?
It was worrying at the time, and I went through a lot of thought process over it. It took a little while. It was an incident that happened, and I sorted it out in my own mind and was quite convinced about the whole thing, and it really has never worried me since. I've never had to think twice about it. When I went up the top this morning, there wasn't a physical thought process about going through the top of the mountain at all. I mean, I just didn't even think about that at all. Besides, I had too many other things to do at the time. It hasn't worried me. It worried my family, which worried me more than the accident itself. I know my own ability, and I didn't question it as far as the accident was concerned.
Some real insight there from Evan Green at Bathurst with Fred and Christine Gibson, of course, helping celebrate this show, and George Fury is our special guest today. Now, as you can see from that, Christine has not changed a bit over the years. Fred, well, anyway, Christine.
Thanks, Bill. Good.
You very humbly talked about knitting earlier, but you were a very successful driver in your own right.
Yes, I was probably very lucky too, and very fortunate to be involved in motorsport at a period of time when sponsorship was just arriving in, and of course with sponsorship people wanted some sort of edge as well to attract the sponsorship. So I was lucky in the way too that I had support from some excellent people and providing cars that I probably would never have been able to get my hands on had I just turned up as a club racer or something. So yeah, I was fortunate at the time, and I was fortunate right through to be able to drive some really great cars and in some good teams, because I was involved with the Holden dealer team, and I was involved with the Alfa Romeo team, and I had Castrol sponsorship over the years. I did some rallying, I did some road racing, some hill climbing. I was really fortunate.
But how on earth, the big thing that I want to know, how on earth did you end up with this guy, though?
I used to like you, Noonan. I've gone off you today.
You're copping it today, Fred.
I just want to divert for a minute, because you were all involved with the Nissan program at a time where turbocharging was a big thing. We've got some great print ads here from the period of what was being advertised at the time, and it was really big. I mean, have a look at this. If there's no substitute for experience, there's no substitute for Bluebirds. So, I mean, they're transferring from the Datsun entity to Nissan here, and they're pushing turbocharging and using what was happening on the racetrack to feed what was happening with the road cars. I mean, here's another one of success breeds success with the period where George and Fred were driving these Bluebirds in the early era. So they were very much testing on the road to what was going on the track, and buying cred with touring car fans who previously had been, like we said, Ford or Holden.
I think that was Nissan's idea, but really, Aaron, was get involved in the sport, because the rally days had run out of its, suppose, advertising sort of, or doing things, and people were getting more involved in motorsport, circuit racing. So all of a sudden they had this little Bluebird, and they thought that would be a good way of sort of getting some sort of, and also building the Bluebird in Australia.
And on that subject, George, how did you deal with the corporate side of things? I mean, as Fred's pointed out, I mean, this is big business here. The racing was part of a much bigger picture.
Yeah, I was a bit under pressure to go to dealer functions and all that sort of stuff, which wasn't ever my bag, you know. But I had a job to do, and I had, you know, I did it, I guess.
Speaking of having a job to do, one of the cars in that era that Nissan ran that Christine drove was the Exa Turbo. Now, that was a job to drive, wasn't it? That was quite a little beast.
It was a job to drive. But that was another thing with, like, bringing the Nissan brand in, using the motorsport side of it as well. When the Exa came out, they wanted to present it as a female car, really, you know, and win over some of the female... and I think that's why I got the gig to drive it, apart from the fact that when you drove it, none of these boys would drive it.
Everyone handled it off.
Nobody else wanted to drive. But see, you talk about Exa, it was a Pulsar. So you had the Bluebird and the Pulsar. It was a Pulsar Exa. So they wanted to have the female, you know, persons, or like in motorsport, to sort of look at a Pulsar. And so it was the Pulsar brand, really. It was a really... Nissan did a very good job of branding the sport with their company name, Nissan. That's why they changed, as you say, to Nissan.
Let's not forget, this was building to spectacular success for Nissan, of course, a little bit further down the track. Here's the Exa in action.
The Ep8 turbo, the Nissan team. It's around about 6 or 7 seconds quicker than it was last year.
They're in 19th position on the track, car number 16. Christine Gibson and young Glenn Seaton, Barry Seaton's son, youngest driver in the race. He's only 19. They're sharing the drive in this car. As I said, they're in 19th position. It's a great performance, and young Glenn Seaton was posting a really sizzling tyre. So keep an eye on this car as the race continues.
Very quick little car. He's going to have a problem here with, as you could see, bringing on the turbo. It's going to give him a wild ride around the top of the mountain.
Real flyer, this car.
Here he comes. Nice, clean lines. Keeping in mind only a couple of hours ago we had snow across the mountain here at Bathurst.
Oh, quick across the top is George Fury. He is right in the thick of it in Hardy's Heroes. Don't you worry about that. And it's going to be a quick time.
He's got pole at the moment.
These are the conditions that suit the turbo?
Oh, very much so. But even so, I didn't think we could get into 13, so I'm very happy with that.
Well, you talk about hot laps at Bathurst. That was certainly one of them. By any standards, by any era, that was just quick, George.
That was the morning when we drove to the track. The whole, you can see the track, the mountain, and that was all snow, all white. And this is qualifying morning on the Saturday.
Turbo day.
Turbo day. But I didn't know whether it would melt or not. I was hoping it would.
And this came at a time, I guess, compared to modern racing, where you come in from a session and they plug the laptop in and they know exactly what you've done. You had to learn by the seat of your pants then, didn't you?
Look, in those days, we never had that engine on an engine dyno. So, you know, entirely different sort of era. Yeah.
You couldn't sit there and look through the squiggly lines on the pieces of paper like they do now.
Well,
nothing.
Telemetry, I mean, I only heard about telemetry a couple of years ago.
But there's only one guy that could have done that lap, this guy.
It was pretty good, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Why is that, Fred?
Because it's such a difficult car to drive, having driven lots of different cars, and to put a lap together like George did on the day, that had full everything. She had full boost, she had everything full. It's just a super lap, and I don't care. Nobody else could have done a lap like that. You know, it was a really gutsy lap. Yeah.
Because there was a gap of 1985, you were waiting for the new Skyline to come. So, in a unique situation, you were loaned out to BMW for that year to drive alongside Jim Richards in the second car. And I think you know where I'm going with this and what happened in 1985 when the two BMW drivers ended up parallel parking at turn 1.
Yes, one. Oh, trouble! Oh, up at Hill Corner. There's a hell of a pile-up. It's two of the BMWs.
Richards and Fury. It's Fury in the Crichton car at the moment with the red helmet on. Unbelievably bad luck for the JPS team.
Look, Jim's digging with his hands. Goodness me. Frantic, furious. They both exit the car and Jim says, come on, George, get down on your knees and dig.
We both sort of half spun on the oil and ended up in the sand pit. And it's no fun digging, I can assure you.
Well, come on now. Can you shed any light on that one, George?
Oh, it was blown engine from the guy that was in the fence. So we just missed seeing it.
I think the rough thing about that...
Both missed seeing it.
How rough, though, is it that you're both in there? You don't want people to come and help you initially because you might get excluded from the race. But what happened there? You helped Jim dig his car out and he took off up the road and left poor George there to dig his own out.
That's Richo. That's typical. He's in New Zealand. That's typical Richo.
But isn't it different? Like, the race kept going. Like,
yeah, no safety car.
Here we are digging... It's altogether different these days. I just remember about that. Arriving, no control, and Jim's face... and I'm getting closer, I'm thinking, I'm going to hit him, I'm going to hit him.
But you've transitioned here from driver to team owner and manager, so you're now employee.
Yep.
Don't go there.
No. I was going to say, so what did that change, Christine? I imagine it's massively stressful running a works team, establishing a business. You moved from Sydney to Melbourne. Did that change, Fred, in a way there? Or was there more pressure, less pressure, more grumpiness, less grumpiness?
Oh, more grumpiness.
More grumpiness, that's for sure. It did change him a bit. It was good for him in that his transition from driver to team manager then made the whole bit about not driving anymore a lot easier for him. And the thing was, I don't know that he always wanted to be a team owner, team manager, have his own team, but there was an opportunity now, and that you could have something as big as that we could make this work, we could do it, and for him it was a, you know, the beginning of a fabulous career as a team owner and manager.
I'd imagine though he's a terrible backseat driver. Yes. Yes.
He used to be.
You got there eventually?
Yes, you got a yes quietly.
Okay, I'll take that. That's a yes. I'll take that as a yes.
The whole thing is, on the structure, that Nissan Motor Company was spending a lot of money on motorsport, and Howard Marsden, the product planning manager, motorsport manager, couldn't oversee both things, could he? He couldn't oversee the race team and his job as product planning manager. So they decided, he decided, it was better to get someone else to run the race team. And I got an offer to come to Melbourne and try and restructure and do the race team.
So I'm looking for 2 yeses.
Do the race team.
So I'm looking for 2 yeses here. I've got one. Bad backseat driver.
Oh, no.
Meddler, couldn't help himself.
Only because he's sitting next to me, you see.
I'm taking that as a yes.
Well, we'll go to a break now. There were some very happy times, of course, in 1986. Some highlights on the way.
Coming out of the last corner onto the long front, finishing straight at Sandown, and George Fury will come across the line and take it. Checkered flag for little George. He wins his first touring car championship race of the season, and George Fury tastes victory in round 5 of the National Touring Car title, the Motorcraft 100 from Wanneroo Park in Western Australia. For the Coca-Cola Cup, and it'll be George Fury who takes the checker, and Nissan strikes gold at Lakeside, and George Fury of Talmalmo, New South Wales, will win the battle. Robbie Francevic takes the war in the 86 Touring Car Championship.
The 6th win in the 10-round Touring Car Series, so you can't ask for more than that, but all the same, I'd like to congratulate Robbie Francevic for coming 4th or 5th, whatever he did,
6th, and
taking the championship.
The last bend, Australia National Line turn. Georgie Fury is ready. The checkered flag is ready also, and he greets it. George Fury across the line, and he will take round 2 of the Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship from Symmons Plains.
Yes. Today's special guest, George Fury, conquering Tasmania in 1987. Had a win in the Sandown 500 that year as well, and that brings us to the Shannon's Classic Car with Mark Osler.
Bill, there's no doubt about it, as we've heard in this program, that Nissan's first Group A contender, the turbocharged Skyline DR30, was a fast but difficult car to drive. Fred Gibson described it at the time as twitchy and unforgiving. It required a driver with a very special set of skills to get the most out of it. And in George Fury, he was able to tick every box.
The DR30 looked clean and purposeful, like all hand-built factory race cars should. Its Garrett T3 turbocharger was pumping 1.3 bars, or about 19 psi of boost pressure, into a 2-litre, 16-valve twin-cam 4 with Cosworth pistons, wet sump, intercooler and electronic fuel injection. The result was 330 brake horsepower at 7,000 RPM and more than 330 foot-pounds of torque. It reached the rear tyres through a Nissan gearbox casing loaded with Hollinger gears, limited slip diff and adjustable independent rear suspension. 17 by 9-inch wheels ran high degrees of negative camber front and rear to squeeze the most grip available from a new generation of race tyres featuring radial ply construction. Huge 13-inch diameter front disc brakes and 11-inch rears provided ample stopping power. All this in a race package that weighed a mere 1,035 kilograms. In other words, a turbocharged bullet on wheels. The new Skyline, George Fury and Gibson Motorsport gelled into a formidable combination straight out of the workshop. 3 pole positions, 1 second place and a win in the first 3 rounds of the 1986 Australian Touring Car Championship. An astounding start and a warning to rivals that this determined Japanese car maker was just getting warmed up.
Yeah, it was quite a car, and history shows that George Fury came very close to winning the 1986 Australian Touring Car Championship in the DR30's debut year. He took the battle right down to the final round at Oran Park, and the next year his young teammate Glenn Seaton did the same thing. But for Nissan, their greatest successes in the Australian Touring Car Championship and at Bathurst were just around the corner.
Great job, Mark. Thank you very much. Another Shannon's Classic car with Mark Osler. And I have really personal memories of that era because as a young guy, my very first race that I went to was the 86 Sandown 500 that you won with Glenn Seaton in the DR30. And we had Glenn on the show last year with John Bowe, and they both described the car as actually pretty evil looking back on it. What do you think?
Oh, look, we tried our best. I mean, it was a road-going car, you know, turned into a race car, so it was never going to be sort of fantastic. But you know, I found it all right. I put up with it.
He's the only one that could drive these sort of cars because don't forget, Sierra's had an Evolution car they'd bring out. Nissan never bought an Evolution car out. It was a production car, as off the showroom floor, and it's made in a race car. So the thing is, with the Fords here and those cars, they were specially built, so many limited numbers. So it was a difficult car because suspension and that sort of stuff, wasn't it? It was this road car tried to make into a race car, and we had a good driver driving it. Simple.
And the Sierras had a bigger turbo, which was causing the turbo lag. Whereas we never, unfortunately, we never had that problem.
Well, on that subject, by 88, the Sierras obviously were having a pretty big influence on things. Let's have a look at the Bathurst shootout from that year.
George Fury at the wheel. The farmer from Talmalmo in New South Wales.
He's the man who holds the unofficial record for the fastest touring car lap ever at Mount Panorama in a Nissan Bluebird back in 1984, 2 minutes 13.85. That still stands today.
Gasses it up, getting it out of there.
George is pretty masterful at the controls, as you can see.
George stays on the throttle all the way through there.
A 6-cylinder 24 valve. It sounds absolutely beautiful.
It's top 10 shootout here at Mount Panorama and gets it sideways through there.
One heart-stopping moment there for Fury as he entered Caltech's chase, but again kept it beautifully under control. Makes the last left-hand turn, lines it up for the checkered flag. The time's going to be pretty quick. 2 minutes, 22.723.
Yes, George qualified 9th in 1988 with Mark Scaife as his co-driver.
And by that stage, Billy, the Nissan team had stepped it up to the HR31 model, so 6-cylinder, a little bit of a troubled car in its early period though, guys, wasn't it? But by the time you developed it, it actually became a really good, reliable workhorse.
Yeah, as time went on, Aaron, really it was, say, teething troubles to the new car. Like we had the R30, the same sort of problems. And don't forget, we're the only team doing it, and we're developing cars better than the Japanese in their touring car championship are because they control their championship over there. We had to compete against all the other cars in our championship. Nissan over in Japan, they'd supply customer cars, and they'd look after them and keep the thing going the way they wanted to go. Yeah.
Well, Fred Gibson, Christine... Well, Fred Gibson, Christine Gibson, first of all, congratulations on your wonderful contribution to Australian motorsport, but thank you for the great memories today on Shannon's Legends of Motorsport.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll go to a break with another example of George's victories, this time at Winton.
Perseverance pays off in any business, Mike, and you're looking at it paying dividends.
Oh, no, George, hang on to it. My goodness me, the farmer got excited.
Well, it just shows that you can't lose concentration for a millisecond around here.
And look who's behind it.
That's Brock 3 car lengths behind in the scrap for the checkered flag. It is not over. It's now exactly 60 minutes and 1 second into this race. And these two men scrapping for the lead in the absolute closing stages of this race.
They come down the back straight now for the final time. Madecki pulling out to try and get Johnson. He's already passed Johnson. Brock making up ground now on the Nissan.
Oh, one of the shell cars has gone in front of them. If he comes back, he could cop Fury. No, he misses him. Goodness gracious me.
Here comes George Fury. Last corner, checkered flag. The Sierra domination is broken. George Fury wins at Winton Motor Raceway. Peter Brock places second.
George, a nice guy, quiet, but, you know, you put him behind the wheel, he changed a bit, like most of us.
George becoming a road racer, I think he did an absolutely fantastic job. I mean, he was dominant for quite a while on the Bluebird on occasions, and his driving ability was terrific.
The mentor for George was one of the greatest guys, I believe, has ever been blessed in motorsport in this country, which was Howard Marsden, who did a lot, not only for Nissan but for Ford and for motor racing in general. And I think he was the making of George Fury, because he believed that the guy had the ability to sort of come from dirt to bitumen, and George did a fantastic job of it. And mind you, in a car that was groundbreaking at that point in time.
Driving's driving, and if you get the opportunities, if you're a rally driver or a speedway driver, whatever, an open wheel driver, you can actually adapt if you're given the time, you know, given the time and the testing. And I think Howard Marsden was instrumental in George Fury's rise, because he let him learn at his own pace, and George became a very, very fine driver. And I drove in the team with him in '87. I was driving with Glenn Seaton. George was in the other car, and you know, he was tough to beat.
He taught me a lot in my early days. He was very underrated as a driver, I think, on the asphalt. I think he was very fast, and his ability to think about throughout the race and to strategise and things like that was quite good. I think it would have been nice to see him on the asphalt even earlier than he was, because he was as much, although that he didn't show him behind the scenes, he was much a pace setter like the Brocks and the Johnsons and the Moffats were back in their day. So as a teammate, he was great to have around. We had a lot of success together in the races that we did, and we enjoyed each other's company and being a part of that race team, which was really enjoyable.
George Fury was a sensational guy, the most understated driver I've ever met in my life. He was almost apologetic. And we did a Channel 7 colour feature on George Wright, carted all the crew down to Talmalmo, and they thought it was the end of the earth. But we wanted to get George, who drove the local school bus. And he was just a sensational guy. His family were terrific, and George, through what he'd done in rallying, where he won the Australian Championship, I think he did a terrific job for Nissan. I recall, I think, in one of the early runs where we had George using race cam at Bathurst, he unfortunately, from his great demeanour, which impressed all of us, he launched into this tirade of abuse and four-letter words. George carried race cam after that, but he didn't do any talkies.
George, you can have trophies and big prize money and all that, but there's a lot of value in that too.
I'd say
Some
so.
nice sentiments there.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to hear that, you know, from other people. But we all got on, as I said before, and I respect all those guys that spoke then, and I'm glad they respected me.
In 1990, you teamed up with Glenn Seaton again. This time in the Sierra. How did that all come about, and what was it like?
Well, I left Freddie by then, and Glenn asked me to have a drive of the Sierra, which, by the way, I quite liked. I thought, you know, some people knock the Sierra for being really hard to drive, but I quite liked it. And I drove, I think, at Eastern Creek. But anyway, that was basically the end of my my career. You know, I've had enough, and I decided to sort of opt out of the whole thing and go home to the farm.
But you were still winning, though. You still won the Sandown 500, the shot in the background there, and I know that you did Bathurst that year, but to get ready for it, you did the last round of the Touring Car Championship at Oran Park. So the last time we saw George in the Australian Touring Car Championship, and he finished on the podium too. Here's a slice from the 7-volt.
30 runs in third place out on the racetrack, and that, of course, is a familiar face to motorsport, Georgie Fury.
George's been out doing a little rallying earlier in the year, and Glenn Seaton has very astutely grabbed his services, put him on the payroll for the rest of the year. So you can see this car as being a formidable runner at Bathurst.
Certainly so.
George knows his way around there. I believe is still credited with the fastest lap ever in a
little turbo
in a Nissan product. Yes.
Great bit of work. It's a very impressive body of work, George. I mean, growing up during that era, I love watching you race in those Nissans and then in the Sierra there. I don't think many people realise here, but you had more poles in the Australian Touring Car Championship in Nissans than Jimmy Richards and Mark Scaife, guys who are connected to that brand. 9 Australian Rally wins, 8 Australian Touring Car wins, 3 Sandown 500 victories, 21 championship podiums. I mean, it's a great body of work. Are you satisfied with what you did?
Oh yes. I feel immensely lucky that there's a series of people in my career that put up with me and believed in me, and you know, at the time, like I started rallying a works car when I was 30, and I started driving a race car when I was 40. So it's really, and I drove the Sierra when I was 49 or something.
And the passion for driving hasn't stopped, because you've still got a little MX-5. And do you wear the Akubra or the terry toweling when you take it out to Winton?
No, the terry toweling was for the rallying, and a little bit started the circuit racing, and then the Akubra came.
He's come prepared.
Bit more schmick, you know.
Looking back, George, what did you enjoy most about it? There's a lot of talk about your obvious car control. I mean, having a feel for a car at your level of driving is probably overused, but you clearly had something distinctive. What was the most enjoyable thing about it all?
I just love cornering, you know. I mean, on the limit stuff, whether it's rallying or racing, you know. To me, going at 200 mile an hour is nothing, you know. It just. But going around corners on the limit is the thing. And mentioning the MX-5, it's just a little powerless car, but I go to Winton and a few other racetracks, you know, not racing, just doing laps, and I still get a real buzz out of it. And by the way, my nephew's got one of those MX-5s, and he comes along too, and yeah, we have a ball.
That's what it's all about. I mean, no better reason to actually do it.